In this video, I'm going to show you a few other things that we can do inside of an EJS file. Up until now, all that we've seen is adding in regular HTML, and then also using EJS tags to add in a single line of JavaScript that's using a variable that we're passing through from our app file. Using res.render, we're passing thing_var through. But there are other things that we can and will do all the time using EJS. So we're going to talk about them here. I have three main objectives. I want to show you some examples in the real world of this control flow in EJS templates. And then I'm going to show you how we can write if statements in an EJS file, and then also how we can write loops in an EJS file. Let me start by showing an example of what I'm talking about. So I have Reddit open. This is the soccer subreddit. And what I want you to notice is that there's a list of posts, 25 on this page, and each one follows a similar format, except they're slightly different. Let's inspect and I'll show you what I mean. So they're all inside of a div. Each one is a div with a class of entry, but they're slightly different in that some of them have a button here that shows it's a video that I can play. Some of them show that it's a tweet, and on some of the other ones, I can also expand text. So they all follow this format where for each post, we're getting a div with class entry, and each one has a paragraph with class equal to title and another paragraph with class equal to tagline. And they follow a standardized format, but they're all different. And then obviously the content is different as well. The actual text, the words, the links, all of that. So this is done with a template where we have a collection of posts. And let's just say we were writing this. We would get all of the soccer related posts from the database, whatever order these are in. I think we're ranking them by hotness, however Reddit calculates that. So we have all these posts from the database, and then what we do is loop through, and for each post we make one of these items. So our EJS file would look something like this if I were to just write some pseudocode. Loop through all posts, and then for each one what we want to do is make a post div, or make an entry div, I think is what they called it. And that entry div should have a title and a tagline and whatever else goes along with it. And that will happen for every single post. So we'll just define a pattern for one post, but using the magic of EJS, we can get it to repeat for every item in a list or every item in our database. The other thing we can do is add in some conditional logic to make things look and behave a little differently. And so that's how here, some of them have a play button for video. Some of them have a Twitter icon. Some of them will have a whistle here. Some of them have a soccer ball and some text that we can expand. And that's done with an if statement, where essentially the code says something like, if this link is twitter.com, then show a Twitter logo. If this link is a video or a GIF/GIF, however you pronounce it, then show the video icon and make this button work. And if the post is a match thread, then show a soccer ball. That's just one example on one website of how having logic in your templates is really important. But any site out there, any web application, Facebook, Gmail, Twitter, they all use a templating language. Though they don't all use EJS, there are tons and tons of different templating systems and languages out there, but their core functionality is all the same. The idea again is that we can add logic to our HTML. So now let's go do that. Let me get rid of this for now. And let's go back to our app.js, and we have this fall in love with thing. Let's add a really simple bit of logic instead of our template that will check if the thing that the user entered is Rusty, then we'll display an extra line that says good choice or something like that. So what we'll do is in our love.ejs, we'll first write just regular JavaScript, and it won't be valid, but we're just going to write the JavaScript. So it would be something like if thing_var triple equals Rusty, and let's do lowercase so that we can account for uppercase and lowercase, and then we'll downcase this, so to lowercase. So if the lowercase version of the thing variable is equal to Rusty, then we'll just do another line, and I'll just write the HTML right here. So we'll make a paragraph that says good choice, Rusty is the best. And like I said, this is not valid EJS. What we need to do is go ahead and add these tags around our code. So I'll start typing that here. We need our percentage equals, and then same thing here. and we have to wrap every line of JavaScript. Anytime JavaScript starts and ends, it doesn't matter that this if statement doesn't end until down here. We have to wrap each part of it individually. So same thing here, just like that. And I like to add space in just so that it's easier to see what's what. So we've taken JavaScript and we've wrapped it in EJS tags, including this closing bracket at the bottom, and we'll save. And there is one slight issue. If I start my server and I go and refresh the page, it gives me a syntax error. And what I need to do to fix this, I'll stop the server, I need to go back and get rid of these equal signs. And I'll explain why in just a moment, but let's just make sure it works now. So node app.js, and we'll refresh the page, and we get you fell in love with tater tots. PS, this file is the love.ejs file. Now let's go to fallinlove/rusty, and now it says good choice, Rusty is the best because of our if statement. Anywhere else though, we don't get that line. So why do we have to take away those equal signs? The answer is that there are two different types of tags in EJS. Let me write them out first. So we have this set of tags where there's an equal sign, and this set where there is no equal sign. There actually is a third that we'll see later with a dash, but for now, these are the only two we need. And there's a very important difference between the two. When we add the equal sign, the value that is returned, whatever this code returns inside of here, will be rendered to the page. It will be added to the HTML. So if we had something like 5 plus 5, and we had some text here, like I love, this 5 plus 5 will be evaluated, and then we'll end up with 10 in the HTML itself. But when we're doing logic, like an if statement, or what we'll see shortly when we use a loop, we don't want something to be added to the HTML. This logic is here purely as logic. It's not supposed to display anything. This is supposed to display, but we don't want our bracket showing up, or we don't want the if statement showing up. So whenever we're doing logic, control flow stuff, if statements and loops, we don't use the equal sign. So again, the equal sign will take the return value and stick it in the HTML, and no equal sign will just run the code. The last thing I'll show is if we wanted to do an else here, we just write our regular JavaScript else, and then we need our closing bracket down here, and we have to remember no equal sign. And then whatever I put in here, let's do another paragraph. And in here, we'll just say bad choice. You should have said Rusty. Okay. And save, restart the server, refresh, and we get bad choice. You should have said Rusty, unless we type Rusty. Okay, so we have one file now that is responding not only in a different way depending on the variable that we pass in, but also depending on what the variable is equal to, we have some conditional logic. So that's half of what I want to talk about. The other half is how we can use a loop in a template. And to do that, I'm going to define a new post. And to do that, I'll define another route. So back in my app.js file, let's add in app.get, and we'll just get /posts like that. And what we're going to do is define an array of posts. And each post will just have a title and an author. So we'll define that array now, var posts equals an array. And then inside that array, we'll have a few objects where we have title is post 1, author is Susie. And then we'll do the same thing just to have some starter data. And we're going to pass this data through to our view. And in the view, we're going to loop through it. So we'll have some more creative posts here. My adorable pet bunny. And can you believe this Pomsky? I think that's how you spell it. Okay. And the author can be Charlie. And then this one will be me. And we'll save. And then we're going to res.render a file. So res.render, and our file doesn't exist yet. Let's just call it posts.ejs. And then we'll pass in our data. Posts is equal to posts. So again, this refers to the name of the variable. And posts here is what we'll call it inside the template. And it's pretty common to see them called the exact same thing, but it's important that you know they are different. And that's all we should need to do. We'll save, and then of course we need to make the template. So we'll do touch views / posts.ejs, and then we'll open that C9 views / posts.ejs, and we'll start by just having a simple H1 here that says the posts page. And let's add in some EJS tags and just print out the value of posts, just like that. And we'll save. And now we can start the server, node app.js. Go here, and we need to go to /posts. And you can see we get our template. It says the post page. And when we print it out, or when we use the % equals EJS brackets, we get the array here, but it doesn't actually show everything. It just says object, object. And we want to loop through each one and just make an li. And the li should say the author and the title. So to do that, let's write the plain JavaScript first without EJS. So we'll have a loop, and I'll do it with a for loop first. So for var I equals 0, I is less than posts.length, I plus plus, just like that. And then inside of here, what we'll do is make an li. And for now, we're just going to put post goes here and save that, and we can get rid of this. And then we need to go in and wrap this with our EJS brackets. And remember, no equal sign, because we don't want the loop itself to be displayed. It's just the logic. And we do the same thing for this bracket at the bottom and save. And what we expect to happen now is it will loop through from 0 up until 3, so 3 times, and it will print an li each time that says post goes here. And if we restart the server and refresh, you can see we get 3 LIs. Of course, now we want to make them say the actual content of the post. So that's a little bit more work, where instead of an li that just says post goes here, we need to add JavaScript inside the li. And what we want to write is posts I, and we'll just do the title for now, .title. Remember, each post has a title and an author. Okay, so we'll start the server over, go back here, refresh, and we get our 3 titles. Let's do one last thing, which is make this in our template so that it also displays the author with a dash, and we'll bold the author. So it's another set of EJS tags where we're going to say posts I dot author. And the reason we need another set is that we want this dash between the two. And I'll also make a bold tag. We'll do strong, and we'll put the EJS inside of that. So it looks like a lot. Let's indent this a little bit better. So we're making an li for each post. Oops. There we go. And we're going to have the title dash strong around the post author. Okay, now we'll restart and refresh. Looks like it didn't save the file. Now we'll restart and refresh. And there we go. We get post 1 dash the author, which is Susie, and then the next post dash the author, Charlie, and the authors are in bold. Okay, so we don't have to just use a for loop. We could do the exact same thing with a for each or a while loop. And in fact, you'll see a for each much more commonly. So post.forEach, and then we write our code in here, function post. And then we need to add our brackets on either side. No equal sign again, because this is not supposed to show up. It's just logic or control flow. And then I'm just going to steal this li and run that, make an li with an equal sign for our data, because we do want that to show up for every post. But we need to change one thing. We're not using a for loop anymore. There's no I. So this just becomes post.title, which is why I prefer to use a for each. It's shorter, it's simpler, but this also gives us the ability to name this post rather than posts I. So we don't have to work with that index variable, Anyways, it's just a matter of personal preference though. These will both do the exact same thing, as you'll see. Make sure to save and restart the server one last time and refresh. And we now have two sets that are identical. One set, these first three, it's a regular for loop, and these three, we used a for each to print things out. All right, so let's take a moment to wrap everything up. The big takeaway, that probably the most important idea here, is the distinction between percent equals and just percent. Remember, this will render whatever the code returns inside of it to the HTML. It's basically like a blank space that will be filled in by whatever code is executed in here, versus this with no equal sign just evaluates code, but it doesn't actually add anything to the HTML. And we'll use these brackets without the equal sign most commonly for if statements, like we did right here, where we checked if the value is equal to something, then print this, make this HTML, otherwise make this other HTML. And also for loops, which we did here. So no equal signs on the loops, but on the values that we do want to show up in the HTML, we of course add the equal sign in.